In today's episode for PathMonk Presents, I'm meeting with Peter Cunningham, who is over from Buyapowa. And essentially, Peter is the marketing director or director of marketing at Buyapowa. And what Buyapowa is, just in a nutshell, it's a leading advocacy marketing platform used by leading brands and retailers to drive customer acquisition. And we're going to be learning today from Peter, who Buyapowa is actually serving, why you're working in the enterprise space, and a little bit about Peter's journey as well. So Peter, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Very good. Yeah, maybe in your own words, what is Buyapowa all about?
You actually gave a very good description there. So we are leading advocacy marketing platform. Our main product is referral marketing. There are several variants of that. So you can use it, with employees. You can use it with influencers. You can use it with partners, etc. But essentially, we began as a referral marketing platform. We work with enterprise brands almost exclusively. We are across about 27 countries in 21 languages. Our clients, just to give you an example, we're very strong in telecoms. We work with T-Mobile US, with various parts of the British Telecom Group, various parts of Vodafone in UK, Ireland, and Netherlands. We work with obviously Rogers and Telus in Canada. And we work with Vitality and First Direct in financial marketing space, financial services space. We work with utilities like EDF, British Gas, and Engie. We work with retailers like Gap and River Island, and we also have beauty players like L'Oreal, Space NK, and we have gambling businesses like Betano. So what all of these companies have in common is that they're looking to get more customers. They're looking to get better customers cheaper, and they realize that word of mouth predates marketing. Before we even knew to call it marketing, our ancestors would have said, hey, where did you get that shirt? There's a great tailor in the corner. So what we've done is we've just taken that natural word of mouth and made it applicable to the internet. Give the customers of these brands a very easy way to share. So they can share native sharing on their mobile for email, WhatsApp, Viber, anything you want to use. An incentive. So there's an incentive, a reward for you if you bring your friend in, which is a thank you for the effort. And normally there's an incentive for the friend, sort of welcome incentive. We also use a lot of interesting psychological tactics to try and get people to refer again and again. So we can use tiered rewards, we can use gamification, we can use triggers, we can use booster campaigns, things like this, a little bit of FOMO, etc. So the idea is that you've got your existing customers who love you, because obviously if they don't love you, they probably wouldn't recommend you. There's been some very interesting research recently from, amongst others, Yale, Harvard, and the Keller Institute into referral. And we've posted some of this on our blog, but it's very interesting that the Keller Institute found that the reason referral marketing works so well is due to two things. It's due to better matching. So if you're a good customer for a brand, it's likely your friends look like you. So it's likely your friends are also good customers. And it also, what people tend to do is, it's the early days of Groupon, people used to spam everywhere, but actually with referral marketing, we've seen it's matured. Instead of, hey, here's my link, people tend to look and say, hey, Lucas, I think you would really like these clothes, or I think you would be a great customer for Vodafone. So they're very selective. And the third one is the second thing was they mentioned was social enrichment. This social enrichment is that I know you very well, and I know the product and the company very well. So I don't recommend Lucas Vodafone. I say, no, Lucas, this plan with Vodafone, with this phone, with, you travel a lot, it's got international roaming. Or maybe it's, this bank account with First Direct that gives you extra rewards. So that's really interesting. Yale came out with some very interesting research recently on the importance of rewards for the referrer in overcoming the social risks of referring. So if you think about, the risk is I refer something to you. If I refer to you, go and buy these jeans from this company, and you buy these jeans and they fall apart, you're going to say, Pete, please don't refer me any more jeans. So the reward is a thank you for the effort, but it also helps overcome that psychological risk. And also we saw from Harvard, they did some very interesting research on the importance of friend incentives. And it's interesting, it's on our blog if you want to see more, but they found that actually in a lot of cases, the reward for the friend was more important than the reward for the referrer, because actually sometimes you accept the kudos of recommending something great to your friend, but it's nice to give your friend something. An experiment they did was they offered people the chance to keep the reward, share the reward, or give the reward, and they found most people gave the reward. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. Super interesting, that little sort of like jump into history and research of the concept. I would be curious, right, within those enterprises that you're working with, who would typically be the champion? Like who's holding the flag high, to bring in buyer power or to even, initiate those programs?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. In about 90% of our clients, it's someone in marketing who deals with customer acquisition. We have a couple of industries where it's not at all. And bizarrely, marketing do different things, and it's the person with the problem. So it's normally the P&L holder. It's someone who's saying, "Wow, I'm way behind my customer acquisition targets. Wow, my CPAs are going through the roof. I can't afford to spend more on Google AdWords, my affiliate prices, or my affiliates are very disloyal. They're with me 1 month and they're with my competitor next month." So it's the person who has the problem. And what they see is, well, how can I get additional customer acquisition? How can I get better customers? How can I get those customers at a lower cost? But even if that isn't the problem, sometimes a leg with, 4 legs is more stable than a table with 4 legs is more stable than a table with 3 legs. So you have another way of getting customer acquisition. So maybe you've got your standard paid search, your SEO, maybe you've got your banners. Hey, great. We've got happy customers. Let's use that.
Super good. Very interesting. What I would be curious, right? Since you're heading up marketing, maybe if we could talk a little bit about, which legs of the table Biopower is actually using, right? So maybe you could give us an idea, like how somebody, a marketeer in those enterprise companies actually learns about Biopower and gets started. Maybe you could tell us about the acquisition channels a little bit.
So that's a very interesting question. So again, as we normally almost exclusively work with big enterprise businesses, we have a few exceptions. We're only targeting enterprises. So a lot of you, if you go and read your HubSpot blogs, all this inbound marketing, a lot of that's targeted at mom and pop stores that are looking to get micro businesses. So for us, we're trying to be very selective in the marketing we do. So, and we're also in a business where it's not about getting hundreds of thousands of leads. Actually, 300 very good leads are better than 100,000 bad leads. So we do a mix of inbound and outbound marketing. So we obviously spend a lot of time with content marketing. So we write a lot of blogs. We write sometimes research papers. We take the view that we should always write something that's interesting for people to read, thought leadership led. Obviously, we have an agenda. We're trying to sell you referral marketing or advocacy marketing at the end of the day. But we think that if you read something we wrote, it should make your day better. You're an executive, you don't have a lot of time. It should be easy to get to the point. It should be well written. I have a colleague who's an ex-music journalist who writes beautifully, and when he writes stuff, it's a pleasure to read it. And we have quite a few people in the business who write well, so we actually do our own writing. So we don't outsource that. We find that something we hold very dear to ourselves. Rather than get an agency who doesn't really get us and get our business and get our personality to write. So we do that. We obviously we push those out. We try to get those listed in search results with SEO. We push it out on social. We email a lot. We do a lot of sort of newsletter emails or direct outreach emails. We also have you can call them SDRs or pre-sales. We do a lot of direct email outreach. And again, we try and lead with, hey, you're a leading utility. We work with EDF. We work with British Gas. We work with NG. We work with all these companies. You should talk. So, and then if that doesn't work, and maybe say, hey, here's a little guide, or here's an asset you might find interesting. So we do a lot of that. We are doing, like everyone, we're doing lots of webinars right now. We just did a bunch of webinars this week, which worked very well. We try and be found for people that are looking for what we do. So we do paid search, paid listings like Capterra, G2, things like this. We obviously SEO. Pre-COVID, we did lots of shows and events where we went to shows and events, and we, essentially the barrier a lot of enterprise businesses have is that the person you're trying to talk to is bombarded with emails from people. So people typically tell me they get 750 to 3,000 emails a day. Whether that's the true number or not, I don't know, but it feels like that. And so, you're fighting for oxygen. You're fighting for someone to even recognize you exist, not to unsubscribe, not to just delete. So some people maybe a catchy email, other people it's a corridor conversation, some people it's a webinar, some people it's a document, some people it's a social post. Step one in your IDA funnel is, hey, we exist. and then, create a little bit of interest, create some desire, and then drive action. So it's essentially that. We are still company, we're about 40 employees, so our marketing budgets are quite tight, and very, very focused. And we tend to do almost everything ourselves.
Very cool. I'm curious, right? With all the different channels that you were mentioning, what role does the website play for you? How do you think about the website?
Yeah, it's interesting because the website is something that we're looking to evolve, and it's a constant subject of discussion for us. The website at the moment tends to be a bit of a brochure website. So it's a discussion that we have. But essentially, the idea of the website is natural search, it's branding. We used to in the past have a lot of gated content. We took the view that if you wanted to read it, read it. If you are trying to read it without giving us a phone number or an email, you'll just give us a rubbish phone number, a rubbish email. So we'd rather you read it and knew who we are, what we do, and when it's the right time, you'll reach out to us. So the main role of our website is kind of branding, kind of establish who we are. But because we're an enterprise business, and I'm not a believer in a lot of automations. I know a lot of companies do automation. So, come to our website, leave your email, go into an automation, click one of those emails, go into another automation, come to another page, leave some details, go into another automation. Because we're an enterprise business, we believe that if we can identify that you're a good potential client, you should talk to a human as soon as possible. So we try and limit the amount of automation we use. So I know some companies seem to go on these endless cycles of, you're in one automation, out of another automation, into another. I don't think that's a great user experience. And I think we can all open our spam boxes and see the endless list of automations we receive.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense, especially in your context. I would be curious, right? So if we're talking maybe a little bit more high level about sort of your marketing role and your perspective on marketing, I would be curious, what do you think? If I ask you what you consider the biggest challenge in marketing when it comes to innovation, what would you say?
Innovation in the product, or being innovative in marketing?
Being innovative in marketing, sort of in the space also where you operate in.
Okay, so first of all, I don't necessarily think you need to be innovative. You can borrow and steal and adapt. And everything's been tried before. So what I would say is that one of the things we found the most useful is actually if you can find a non-competing company, and even in a completely different industry, and we'll have a chat these days, maybe on a Zoom, but in the past maybe over a coffee or a beer. We'd say, hey, tell me what you guys do. What are you doing? What works for you and why? And it's really interesting to compare. And some people have large budgets, some people have no budgets. Some people say, hey, one company told me Instagram works really well for them. And I was like, wow, how are you getting Instagram to work? And and then the guy explained to me that they had a banner solution. I was like, okay, so that makes sense. Other people give you little tips. Maybe you should look at the software, or maybe the show worked really well for us, or maybe this tactic, maybe this. So I think a lot of what's out there, has already been done. It's already been. You can't copy someone's playbook entirely. You have to be influenced by it. You have to adapt it to your circumstances. So another company might be doing this, but their price point is very low. They're selling to SMBs. So it's interesting to hear what they do. It's interesting to hear, another company, we sell, it's $1 million a year. So they can afford a lot of misses to get a few hits. So we're kind of in the middle of that. So we need to be quite targeted. So I'd say it's not about being innovative. It's not about having an agency come up with, wow, let's be the first to do this. It's let's try things, let's experiment, let's have a little budget, let's try. And when you try things, measure it, control it, have a hypothesis, just don't throw the money away, don't leave it running. Open Google AdWords, open your email service provider. Look, hey, we did this, didn't work. Move on. Or maybe why didn't it work? We were so convinced it worked. Another good thing is to talk to clients, talk to the people, who buy your product, and understand, okay, what's their day-to-day problem, but also, where do you learn about technology? What shows do you go to? What newsletters do you read? What gets your attention? That could be some of the best sources of information for making your own marketing.
Very cool. And when I ask you, what do you see the biggest challenge for marketing when it comes to return on investment? What do you think?
The biggest challenge on return on investment. So I'm going to give you several points here. One is essentially most marketing is getting more and more expensive. Okay, I'm going to talk from an online perspective. I'm an online marketer, essentially. So online marketing is always getting more expensive. The people like Facebook, they own the pitch, they had the referee and the opposing team. So they've decided that what used to be free, you now pay for, you now pay a lot for. Back in the day, it was very easy to get clients through emails. It was very easy to get clients through Google AdWords because very few people were bidding. Now everyone's bidding. Everyone has very good software. Google gives you free software which uses AI. All of the agencies have things like Kenshu and Marin, and they're all bidding against each other up to lifetime value. So they get to a point where they bid up to marginal cost equals marginal revenue. We talked to a couple of insurance clients in the UK who said that often in certain lines of insurance, they make no money until the third renewal. They've given all their profit for the first 2 years to Google. So this is crazy. From a B2B perspective, the other channel you've got is managing your own internal resources. So it's one of the things as a marketer, it's very easy to get top of the funnel leads. And your sales guys essentially want bottom of the funnel leads. They want a guy who's been qualified, who wants to buy. So the struggle is, yeah, you can spend lots of money on paying for paid search, paid search or white paper downloads. But what am I going to do with them? The what next question is something very important. Who do I give this lead to? How do I ensure that they follow up? How do I ensure that person had a good experience? So there's that. The other thing we have is a lot of marketing. Some marketing is very easy to target. So it's very easy to target something like an SDR outreach. It's very easy to target an email outreach. It's fairly easy to target a show outreach. It's very hard to target SEO. It's very hard to target paid search. The person clicking my paid search ad could be a competitor or a student or someone who's completely confused. So, another thing there is understanding the return on investment of each channel. The other thing is also, I think everyone that reaches out to us deserves a polite response. So, but, sometimes telling them, hey, we don't think we're the right solution for you. Maybe you want to try this solution. But again, those shouldn't be shoved in an automation and put back in, because if they're the wrong person, they shouldn't be hearing from us because they'll just surface again. And it will cost time and money to tell them, sorry, you're not the right person. So those are the challenges I see. I think every business has its own dynamic, its own, value of each customer, its own number of customers it must close per month to break even. So you have to navigate your way through that.
Cool. Maybe last question on that matter. What would you say is the biggest challenge when it comes to conversion optimization?
Biggest challenge with conversion optimization. So for us in this business, I mentioned we're enterprise, so quite often our numbers are low. So it's very difficult. My boss thinks we send a lot of emails, but I worked B2C before, so I used to have an email database of 3 million. We don't have a lot of emails. So in a lot of things are serendipitous. Some of the channels you think, the financial director will say, should we turn this off? And I'm like, no, wait, leave it. And we had a few months where paid search didn't deliver anything. Delivered some leads, but nothing closed. And then bang, we got 3 big clients in a row. But actually, I had to fight my little corner and say, give it some time. So, sometimes you need to have a little bit of faith. And when your numbers are low, you need to leave it long enough to get decent. Not that we're mathematically calculating, but we're tracking everything. We're saying, look, hey, what do we spend? What do we get? Does it make sense to continue? Does it make sense to double down? Does it make sense to reduce? And what I'd say is the main challenge in a B2B case, at least in our cases, we're not trying to target the world. So our numbers are small. So, the risk is taking decisions too quickly on not enough data.
Super interesting. Since we're slowly coming to the end of the interview, I would love to switch gears and learn a little bit about yourself. There's obviously, you were speaking about being bombarded with newsletters and emails. There's a lot of content out there. How do you choose what to educate? What to choose and what to read for education?
Interesting. I guess it's also one of those things that, pre-COVID, I used to attend a lot of networking events or, shows, sometimes small entry fee, sometimes free. And I always wondered how they found me. And, it looked interesting. I read it. Hey, that's something I want to learn about. Well, there's an interesting speaker. So I would go. I think there was value in it. And it's interesting, you quite often, there are emails I receive and I say, that this person sends me good emails. I often, sometimes I leave them in the inbox unread, and every time I go back and I kill these, I'm never going to read them. But I know that person gave me value, and some of those stand out. And the couple that always stand out for me is, well, the one that stands out most is Taco from Trello. And Taco from Trello just stands out. And he doesn't email all the time, but you read it, it's always an interesting email. And to be honest, I probably read 1 in 10 of his emails, but I don't unsubscribe because I know they're normally good emails. So you build a bit of trust. I think if you're a new emailer with all that's out there, you've got to very quickly grab attention. So if someone who's a very busy executive getting 750, 3,000 emails a day has to really say, it arrived at the right time when I've got a bit of air. I can stop having my coffee. I can look through. You have how many seconds just to get their attention with the subject title and the sender. Then you have maybe a second or two with like the graphic design, or does it look like it's been, personalized for me, or is this a blast? I saw a very good conference with a woman who was a CMO for an American company who said, I will always reply if you've taken the time to write me a personalized email and you explain in the email why you've written to me and why it's pertinent. It was quite interesting. She also explained why, with so many emails, she said, I don't have time to spend half an hour looking at every company. She said, if you get my attention, you've got on my radar screen, and I'll pass you to a colleague and we'll catalog you. But she said the rest is going, in unsubscribe or delete. So you've really got to get attention pretty quickly. You've really got to show value. You've got to show it's relevant. So this is another challenge with marketing, is being relevant to a large number of people. It takes a lot of time. So there's a kind of a medium. At least if you've done the research to make sure you're emailing the right person, more likelihood what you're saying is relevant rather than emailing the entire company. And finding out you're emailing the accountant or the PR person.
I see. Makes a lot of sense. I would love to jump into our rapid fire questions since we're just about to wrap up the conversation. Are you ready for those?
Yeah, go ahead.
Very good. What's the last book that you read?
The last book I read. I'm currently reading a book about Scottish Borders rugby. Before that, I finished The Signal and the Noise, which is a book I was given years ago, and it took me a long time to pick up, but actually it was quite good.
What's the one single thing the company is focused on the most at the moment?
Our company or companies?
Your company.
I guess as we're a growing company, we're mostly focused on scaling. So there's a moment when you stop being a startup. We're a 40-person company, so we're doing a lot of like internal work that hopefully our clients and people will see and appreciate. But it's part of growing up. It's putting in place proper procedures and having people that do this. Whereas when you're an earlier stage startup, things get done very ad hoc. So that's one of the main focuses we're doing. And we're spending a lot of time as we're growing, and we've decided to become a dispersed business with Zoom. We're all working from around the world now, spending a lot of time making sure people aren't excluded. So making sure that the team, we share information and people explain what's going on. So those are very important things to do when you're dispersed.
Very cool. 2 more questions to go. If there would be no boundaries in technology, what's the one thing that you would want to have fixed for Buyapowa today?
For Buyapowa, that's a hard one. I mean, I guess it's not so much around technology. It's almost around it's probably about data and access. Our CEO gave a very good he did a panel several years ago, and what he said he was asked, what are the biggest challenges for startups? And he said, well, you have to understand how much time, energy, and money it takes us to find the right person in your company to talk to. And on the other side of that person is being bombarded, so the company's trying to protect them. The other side, you have data protection laws. So in some way, a kind of a fair exchange. Now, I know that we all suffer from the behavior of the worst performer in the market. When you get these laundry list emails from Indian software companies, or Chinese packaging companies, saying we do packaging, we're a digital business. So unfortunately, they affect everyone else. But there could almost be an arbitrage between, if you're a trusted, supplier, and I'm someone who could be interested. If you need to talk to us, this is the person, and this is the way you can do it. I think that The problem is, I think the minute you did that, someone would abuse it and everyone would go back to the existing situation. But if we could find something that did that, because, you know, we could charge less for our product if we spent less money finding that person.
Yep. Yep.
So,
Makes complete sense. Very good. Very last question. If today would be your very first day working with Buyapowa, what's the one advice that you would give yourself?
I think once you start in every company, it's really to understand, you know, the business and what people are doing, but also understand everyone in the company. Go around and take time to learn about each person. You know, it's interesting. We're a business, we develop our own tech. So pre-COVID, we had the tech team in the office with the CS guys are on the phone with clients, the sales guys, you know, and the noise be loud, and the tech guys put on the headphones and go into the zone. I think, yeah, I would say definitely take time, and doing that as a dispersed company working from home. You know, it's taking time to learn about people, learn about your colleagues. You know, a lot of the meetings we start now, we allow 5-10 minutes for chat. You know, hey, what did you do this weekend? Did you see a great series on Netflix? This kind of stuff that, you know, just builds the kind of camaraderie that, you know, the trust that helps you work together.
Very cool. Peter, really appreciate that you took the time with us today and were a guest on Pathmark Presents and, you know, gave us an insight on what Buyapowa is, how you're thinking about marketing and growth, and also about your personal journey a little bit. So I want to, you know, give you the very last word. What's the one thing that somebody should remember about Buyapowa if they forget everything else that we just discussed?
You just need to remember it's word of mouth marketing for enterprise businesses. We specialize, but we work with heavily regulated and complex businesses that have complex sales cycles. So, and if you're looking to get, you know, new customer acquisition in one of those states, just come and talk to us. We're friendly. You know, we're still a small business. You know, we're happy to chat to you. We're happy if you want to even build your own solution. We're happy to give you some advice on what we think you should consider.
Thanks a lot for being guest on Pathmark Presents with us today.
Thank you.